What's up, bruisers and badasses? Welcome back to another Xander Wolf Gaming production. I'm your host, Xander the Wolves, and we're going to go right into this. We've got the Clawbringer today, and we're going to be going over the skills, the abilities, and all the good, juicy potential that this class has. But starting off from the top, we're going to go with the class feature. No surprise here, it is a Wyvern companion. We've known about this for a while, but let's go more into detail for it. The Clawbringer is accompanied by a Wyvern companion that flies through the environment and attacks enemies with its claws and fire breath. Any increases to the Fate Maker's damage also apply to its companions, which is for all of the other companions you'll see, just like the Grave Worm, which will be a later episode, and the Spore Warden, which we already did before. All companions are based off the Fate Maker's damage. What damage that is, I don't know, but we'll just see what's going on. The first action skill is called Cleansing Flames. The Fate Maker summons their hammer and slams it into the ground, dealing melee damage and creating a massive fire nova, dealing fire ability damage to nearby enemies. This is going to be great for some good crowd control if you're surrounded. Cleansing Flame. If you've got an enemy that's all the way over there and you think they just look really flammable, Cleansing Flame. If you happen to have a late homework assignment and you just need to pretend like your dog ate your homework, Cleansing Flame. Doesn't make sense? Works anyways. Cleansing Flame will take care of most of the people who try to run up to you. Those are your close in, your melees, and all that kind of good stuff. However, on the flip side, we have Storm Dragon's Judgement as the second action skill. The Fate Maker summons their hammer and hurls it, dealing lightning ability damage to all enemies it touches. It sticks to wherever it lands and deals lightning melee damage every second to all nearby enemies. The Fate Maker can recall the hammer, damaging enemies along the path, ending the action skill early and refunding a portion of the cooldown. Now, we talked about this in the Berserker video, but melee damage it can be really good in this game, and if you're building for melee, this might be something you want to splash into your Berserker build so you can do a little extra lightning damage, get a lot of melee damage going out, but that action skill cooldown and being able to pop it as often as possible and getting a refund on it early might lead to some really good combos with your Berserker right there. Something to keep an eye out. Also, what's really nice with the Clawbringer is the fact that you get both fire and lightning versus like Berserker, who only gives us cold, or Spore Warden, who's only going to give us poison. You have two options of elements here. So you can be really versatile, especially if you're either playing by yourself or with a group. You can fit into a lot of different roles and deal out a lot of good damage. Now, you aren't just stuck to doing either lightning or fire. With this build, you'll see a lot of the skills. You can kind of mix and match and do a bit of both, or you can solely focus on one or the other. And I really want to see what some of you can think of with this build down below. Don't worry, there's a skill tree calculator that I'm going to link in the descriptions down below as well. Give me what you think. All right, I want to see that. Anyways, we're going to move on to the Tier 1, Oath of Fire. 5 points max. The Fate Maker deals bonus fire damage with their guns, and their Wyvern companion deal bonus fire damage as well. Now, since we know that the companion itself starts with fire damage, there's no lightning breath for it, it's just a fire breath. This skill is going to give it just straight fire damage, or some bonus fire damage to it, right? But that also means that your guns are going to do fire damage as well. So no matter what element you're going to build with, you're going to have fire on top of that. That kind of feels a little mosey to me, and I'm okay with that. Just to be able to do a little extra flesh damage when it's necessary. Well, since most enemies, from my opinion, are probably going to be fleshy. Well, that's kind of how it's been before. We're going to keep going forward. Except for skeletons. Screw the skeletons. And armor. And everything else that isn't flesh. Because that's how it works. Going on to the next ability, we have Radiance, 5 points max. The Fate Maker gains increased maximum ward capacity. That would also be really nice to kind of mix in with your Berserker if you want to do like you have a higher ward capacity because they can reserve ward, and the percentage of the ward that's reserved goes into max health. It's a really good way to just stack up health for a Berserker build, or if you just want to have like a bigger shield because you can find like a really good shield in the game that'll just kind of keep you alive really well, you can just beef up those shields a little more. It's a nice little early game skill. Next, we have Oath of Thunder, the parallel to the Oath of Fire. It is a 5-point max, same as the other. The Fate Maker deals bonus lightning damage with their melee attacks, and their Wyvern companion deals bonus lightning damage. So here's where you can start mixing and matching. If you're going for a more melee build, this is where you can stack in your melee damage. If you want to go for a more gun build, you have your fire up there to dip into your guns, but both of them give the Wyvern extra bonus damage. So if you're building the companion, both of them may be a really good idea to dip into, and then you can just watch your dragon deal a whole bunch of damage. Going on to tier 2, we have Dragon Aura, 5-point max. The Fate Maker is surrounded by a dragon aura that grants themselves and all allies inside of it increased elemental damage. If you are walking around with a crew of people and all of you deal on element type, it doesn't matter what, this is an ability that you're going to want to bring with you. The fact is, it still affects you. Even though it's an aura, it still affects you. So if you're dipping into both elemental damages, grab this aura, you're going to do more elemental damage. Dedication is the next ability that we're going to look at. That is a 5-point max as well. The Fate Maker gains increased action skill cooldown rate. The higher their ward, the greater the bonus. Now we're going into building your shields up to give you more action cooldown rate. That plays into being able to fire off your hammers far more frequently. Also, with the earlier ability of increasing your max ward, I believe this goes off of, I believe it goes off your maximum ward rate, or not ward rate, but like the ward itself. It doesn't say what your ward is at, but it could be either or. So we'll stick around. We'll see how that plays in the actual game itself, but that's a really nice little building tool. I'm seeing some melee builds. You know how I am. Melee, lifesteal, infinite ammo. If only I could have it all. Rebuke is our next ability we're going to be here. 5-point max. The Fate Maker gains damage reduction from all attacks. Additionally, all allies near the Fate Maker gain a chance to reflect damage back to their attackers as lightning damage. Some more elemental damage to throw in there. And if your buddies are sticking next to you anyways, at least you guys can hug it out and really just keep each other safe. That is a great team ability right there. The only problem I have with it is that they need to be near you and they don't state how far the ability or buff goes. So it sounds great on paper, but once we go to play, if it's too much to keep everyone huddled together, this ability may not pan out the way we want it to. But it's something to be interested in, especially since that's kind of what the Clawbringer is all about, is doing auras and buffing the team, but it's not infinite buff range. So we just got to keep that in mind. All right, going on to tier 3, we have Blast Hummut. Instead of Bahamut, it's Blast Hummut. I like that. Blast Hummut's favor, 1-point max. Kill skill. Killing an enemy with a gun summons a fire orb that seeks out a new enemy, dealing fire ability damage. Killing an enemy with a melee damage summons a lightning orb that seeks out an enemy, dealing lightning ability damage. Both of these are really good. It plays into whether you want to play gun Clawbringer or melee Clawbringer, or if you're doing a bit of both. If you're just dumping all of your points into Clawbringer, you're going to be doing some serious fire and lightning damage, which is good because that'll handle a good chunk of the enemies you got to deal with. So for your solo runs, this may be something you want to look into. I mean, you're going to want to look into this either way because you are going to be killing people. One way or another, you will be killing people. But since your ability focuses on melee damage, you're going to see more lightning orbs than anything else. Just keep that in mind. Well, if you're using your ability to kill people. If you're using your gun, then you're going to see a lot more fire orb. Going on to tier 4, we've got Firebolt, 1-point max. The Wyvern companion will occasionally shoot firebolts at enemies, causing damage in an area and leaving a splat. Additionally, the Fate Maker gains increased gun damage. Really good if you're going for the gun build. Also, it's a different attack type for your Wyvern. So not only is it going to be breathing fire breath, but it also be breathing fire bolts. I don't know what the difference is between the two, and I haven't seen a fire bolt in the game. So I just assume it's just a splash damage fireball. Either way, gun damage increase is really nice. Going to the next one is Friend to Fame, 5-point max. The Fate Maker's Wyvern companion gains increased damage. Now, this is really important comparative to the Spore Warden that increased companions There was no specification, but it increased companions damage. In Clawbringer, it only increases the Wyvern companions damage increase. Good things to look out for, especially when you're trying to get some builds. If you're doing a companion build and you want to lean more into Clawbringer, then having a splash of Spore Warden might be good to make your dragon deal a little bit more damage. Make it go from a little dragon to a boof dragon, a bigger one. But it's good to know that there is a increased damage there. You can focus on it, or you can ultimately avoid it. All depends on how much damage you want to make versus your companions. But the parallel once more to the Firebolt is the Storm Breath. 1 point max. The Wyvern companion will occasionally use its lightning breath on enemies, causing lightning damage that can arc from enemy to enemy. Additionally, the Fatemaker gains increased damage reduction. That is a point worth grabbing either way, because having more damage reduction is going to keep you alive longer no matter what. You can be a little beefier, you can take a few more hits, you can be the reason why your friends don't go down as often, because you just take that damage. You taunt people. You don't have a taunt, but you can try to taunt them. You can yell at your screen until some of them attack you. It could kind of work, but the point is you have your damage reduction, you stay alive longer. The gun damage is nice. For the most part, we're going to have 4 guns. We're going to use guns. So getting gun damage where you can is good, but I would probably recommend the damage reduction over anything else, especially if you're building per the team. Then you don't need to worry about your damage output. You need to worry about the team's damage output. Going on to tier 5, we have Awe. 3 point max. After dealing fire damage, the Fatemaker gains increased critical hit damage. After dealing lightning damage, the Fatemaker gains increased critical hit chance. If you are building both fire and lightning, this is a necessary skill. Necessary, because then you're going to be doing crit damage and crit chance, and all crit chance ever means in this game is a bigger hit box. So get that crit chance as often as you can, and get those crits as often as you can. It's a little bit of extra damage to you, a little beefier, a little stronger. Ooh, you're gonna do so good out there. On the flip side of that though, we have Indomitable, 1 point max. If the Fatemaker would enter Save Your Soul, instead they refill their ward and deal a bonus lightning damage for a short time. This skill has a long cooldown. Now here's the thing, it says long cooldown, and I'm going to believe it's going to be a long cooldown. It's probably over a minute. But that's fantastic. If I can stay alive for longer than a minute, especially if we're getting like our damage reduction over here, we're focusing on a little bit more lightning over there. If you do a lightning build, you're gonna want this just so you don't die as often. Like, this is all about keeping you alive long enough to either put out the damage or to keep your friends alive, so this way you don't all go down at the same time, right? But bonus lightning damage is hard to pass up, and it doesn't say for just you or the companion. It probably means for both. But yeah, no, it just says lightning damage for a short time. That could apply to both, and I'd like to see that. Anyways, your capstone for the Clawbringer is Storm Smite. Of course, the Paladin-esque character would get a Smite attack. 1 point max. Whenever the Fatemaker activates an action skill, they call down elemental bolts that deal fire ability damage or lightning ability damage to all nearby enemies. Now, I don't know what determines whether it's going to be fire or lightning, if it's random, if it picks one element per its strike, or if it's based on the action skill that you chose in the beginning. It doesn't state, but that's not a bad ability. I like it. And it goes off ability damage, so it doesn't do melee damage, but it's not like you don't have a good amount of ability damage in there. Plus, if you get like a good amount of gear that increases your ability damage over everything else, that may prove to be a really good AoE attack. And if we're firing off our hammers, like our lightning hammers, and grabbing them back, like we're just chuck, grab, you're gonna see a lot of lightning all over the place, which should cover a lot of enemies. So we'll see how that goes. Again, splashing into Berserker, we may see a lot of raging, a lot of slowing down enemies while still getting in with lightning and fire and getting all this other stuff going on. It could be a really good build. We'll have to play it out though. Again, all good on paper. Can't wait to try it in game. There's the full art. And for now, that's the Clawbringer. So let me know what you think down below. We'll have this discussion. We'll keep talking about stuff. I already have 2 videos out, like I said at the beginning of this, the Spore Warden and Berserker. And I will have the rest of the classes out sooner rather than later. And At the end of all 6 of these skill trees, I will be posting up my top 4 multi-class videos. I'm going to do 2 solo and 2 multiplayer. So we'll see what kind of builds I can come up with. And if you guys agree or disagree with me, let me know in the comments down below. Let me know what you want to see or what you really want me to try to make work. You tell me, we'll make it go. Also in the description down below will be the skill tree calculator, like I had mentioned before, because I want you guys to have the same access I do to all this. So let's make this work. Let's make Wonderlands wonderful, and I will see you again shortly. Or not shortly, I don't know. Well, bruisers and badasses, that's it for now. But if you want to come find me on other social medias, you can find me on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram, all at Xanderwolf Gaming. For Twitter, it's Xanderwolf Gaming. That's capital G-A-M-I-1. Come find me over there. Come say hi on the internet. I will probably say hi back at some point. Eventually, I get around to those things. Don't you worry about it. But come follow me, and I stream every Wednesday and Friday. Or I try to. I've had a couple vacations. Well, one vacation. A vacation. I'm back, all right? Back in the New York groove. The New York groove.